Welcome to the Olive Tree with me, Julia Fisher. Last week we heard from a Palestinian Christian called Maron. A former drug addict, today he's an evangelist and church planter in Jerusalem and the West Bank. Today we hear from Maron's German-born wife, Angelika. What brought her to Israel?
Well, I think it started with the day when I gave my life to the Lord. And I said to the Lord, you can do with my life what you want to do. But I always had connections with Israel because I had an aunt who moved here many, many years ago and started her life here. So since I was small, we would always come for holiday. But I always knew the Jewish side, never the Arab side. And when I gave my life to the Lord, I said to the Lord, what is the plan that you have for my life? And just to learn more and to hear more about the Lord, I went to do a Bible school and then did an outreach on a mission boat in Greece. And we were sailing 1 year with that boat from island to island until we came to Turkey. And in Turkey, it was the first time I got to know Muslim people. And I realized their need of knowing a Savior. And that was when the Lord started to stir my heart about Muslim people, Middle East, and just focusing on a completely different and new people group.
You then, at some point, met your husband, Maron. I want to bring the story fast forward.
That was much later. That was already when I had moved to Israel. I had started to work with the Arabic people, mainly women in need in the old city. I had been already 3 years in the land, and I really felt that this was the place where God wanted me to be. At that time, I lived in the old city and I had a terrible apartment. It was just what I could cover with the money I had for support, but it was in such a bad condition that I knew it would only last over the summer. You could not close the windows, it had no bathroom, it had no stove, no fridge, nothing. It was a bad place. But I knew the Lord wanted me to be there. And then as winter approached, I realized I needed to move. And I said to the Lord, Lord, I want 2 things. I want a different apartment and I would like to have a husband. A husband with whom I could work in the Middle East and in this setting here. Then I fasted 1 week. And after I'd finished the fasting, I felt the Lord said to me, today is the day you will move. Today is the day I will open the door. And I started to visit again the ladies in need in the old city. And there was one lady, she said to me, you know, our neighbor, he just finished his apartment on top of the roof. Why don't you want to go and see it? So I went up there and it was compared to my little hall room, a dream. And the lady said to me, you know, the rent will be $500. That was the double of the money I had. I said, I'm sorry, I can't afford it. I've only $250. So I left and I came back to my old apartment and my pastor called me. Just at the moment I entered, he said, Angelika, we just had a committee meeting and we decided to raise your support $250 more. That was exactly the answer I needed. I rushed back to that lady. I said, I will take the apartment. And on the way back, I saw Maron. At that time, I didn't know him. I just knew he loved the Lord and he was going to Bible college. And he asked me and said to me, lady, can I help you anything? And first I thought, no, I don't need any help. And then I thought, I have to move. I have to move the house. So I said to him, if you could arrange some guys from the church and help me, that would be great. 3 days later, he was there. He helped me to move all my stuff with the guys from the church. And then he invited me to go to Ramle 3 weeks later to preach at a ladies' meeting. And after this preaching evening, we were sitting together in the house of his relatives. He said to me, you know, I really wonder why you're not married. And he started to share his testimony and his vision and his heart. And he said, you know, in the last 3 weeks, the Lord was speaking to me that you would be my future wife. And I was completely shocked. I mean, not in a negative way, but I was just thinking, oh, that's very fast. But because I had fasted the week before, and I had said these 2 things before the Lord, a flat and the husband, I felt suddenly the Holy Spirit speaking into my heart, this is my answer. And I said to Maron, give me 3 days. I will pray about it. And I felt so much the peace of the Lord in this that 3 months later we were engaged and 3 months later we were married. And then we started together our ministry.
It's an amazing story because Maron's story is so powerful as well, being a former drug addict and coming through all of that. But today you are both evangelists here. You're a team, really. But for you, Angelika, I just want to talk about where you live because you are living in a Jewish part of town. You're a German lady. How does that work out?
Well, I think the last 15 years since I'm in the country, I always lived on the Arab side. And my first calling was to come to the Arab people. So moving to the Jewish side felt at the beginning somehow nearly leaving my calling, settling in a different location. But by moving here, it showed me also that the heart of the Jewish people is very open. And it's not as hard as I thought. We've always had relationships with Jewish people. We had always had good contacts, also with people who were not believers, not Messianic Jews, just ordinary Jewish people. For me, it is really like reaching now out to both sides. Before I came into the country, the Lord gave me one time a picture. It was a picture of myself sitting on top of the Western Wall with one leg down to the Arab side and one leg down to the Jewish side. And this is actually our life and our situation here. We are standing with both feet, one in the Arab side, one in the Jewish side, and trying to show Jesus to them.
At the same time as working as an evangelist with your husband, you have 3 young children, so you're a very busy lady. But you do share his passion. You're pioneers, aren't you?
Yes, that's actually our main calling, to pioneer new ministry in this land. There are not many people who are doing that, and it's also a risky and adventurous calling. But it's our heart to reach out to the unreached. Of course, I have 3 children, and that means my main priority is right now my kids, because I feel they need me as a mother. We don't want that one day they grow up and say, my parents have been busy everywhere on the field, but had no time for us. So that is definitely right now my main priority, but I also give time to join Maron and to go with him on outreaches and share with him together. So I try to combine both, family and ministry.
Just tell me about one or 2 of the new situations that you're seeing develop at the moment.
Well, right now our aim is to start a new church, an Assemblies of God church. And all the ministries we're doing start very small. So at the beginning, it can be sometimes frustrating. But when we see that more people are coming, then we also get more excited about the own project we are doing. So it is planting this new church in a new area, not in the center of Jerusalem, but more on the outskirts of Jerusalem, in a new area where nothing is existing. But I'm also very excited about ministries we are doing since a long time. For example, the Bethlehem ministry. Because these are people we know since many years. And we see their development and their growth, but we also see their needs. Another ministry is that we're reaching out to different kind of people groups and people with different backgrounds. We need a lot of wisdom for that. But when you see the sparkle of the eye in the person who gets introduced to Jesus, a person who gets excited about the good news, this is what excites us most.
Is it sometimes a lonely job being a pioneer like this?
It is sometimes a lonely job because not everybody has the heart of pioneering. There are actually not many people who like to pioneer. I think this is a very human nature. We like to feel comfortable in the settings. We like to stay at a certain setting. We don't want to move from place to place. We like to be more at the comfortable place we know already, the social systems we know. And pioneering means you jump into a new situation with new people, with a new environment, with challenges, maybe with people not liking you, or people putting obstacles in front of your feet. But eventually, pioneering something new means fruit. And this is what we all like to see. Not just the seed, the sow, but the fruit that comes out.
If I ask you to look forward 3, 5, 7 years' time, what are you expecting to see? What are you hoping? What are you praying for?
I hope and pray for that those people who gave their life to the Lord become strong. I don't mean just being believers. I mean people who get their own visions from the Lord, who learn to hear the voice of the Lord. I think this is a real key in our life with the Lord, that we learn to know, to hear His voice. And I wish this for the Arab people, that they start to hear His voice, that they start to move, that they push in, push through, because ministering here is a battle. This is nothing for weak people. It's for people who are ready to stand up, who are born to be heroes. And we want to find and get out the hero in the Arab. You know, the Arab person who has been maybe growing up in a very neglected setting, maybe with parents that didn't love him, who are suddenly finding and embracing the love of Jesus and pushing through and leaving the past behind, not living anymore in a poverty mentality, but saying, I'm a child of God and I earn all riches He has for me, and just running the race.
Angelika, a German Christian living in Jerusalem with her Palestinian Christian husband Maron and their 3 young children. You're listening to The Olive Tree with me, Julia Fisher. As I sat in Maron and Angelika's home in Jerusalem recording their stories for this programme, it really hit me just how brave they are and how much they need the support and understanding of Christians in the West. And that's where the Olive Tree Reconciliation Fund can help, a charity based in the UK that supports needy Jewish and Arab Christians. For more information, please visit our website www.olivetreefund.org. And if you'd like to receive our free bi-monthly newsletter, please either email inquiries@olivetreefund.org or write to me, Julia Fisher, at the Olive Tree Reconciliation Fund, PO Box 850, Horsham, RH12 9GA in the UK. I'll be back at the same time next week for another story from the Olive Tree. Until then, goodbye.